Welcome to Team Perry's Step Out of Line podcast, featuring co-hosts Perry and Lori Finkelstein. Together, they explore, meet, and share inspirational stories with guests who have made a positive impact in today's world. This podcast resonates with our hope to make this world a better place one step at a time through love, acceptance, and uplifting conversations.
In terms of my Judaism, I grew up Jewish and I grew up conservative, which is, very kind of middle of the road. And I decided that I didn't just love my Judaism, but I wanted to live it more and I wanted to practice more because I felt attached to it. But it wasn't really in our family customs or in our history. And to do that was really kind of like being like the black sheep of the family, which is kind of like stepping out of line. Like, oh, you're not following the path that we're all following. You're doing something very different. And I started to just do a few things. I started to keep kosher. I started to dress a little bit more modestly. I decided to, pick a prayer. I said the Shema every day. And I started to keep Shabbat. And just by doing those 4 things, I ended up kind of stepping out of line and stepping into a new line, into a new life that really brought so much joy to me. And it's what, encouraged me to meet somebody like my husband and build the life that we have and to build the type of family that we have. It was very difficult for me. And I had to be very firm, like when you're talking about literally stepping out of line and moving out of alignment with your life and who you are. When you make your own path, it's kind of like walking through deep snow. If I could walk in your footsteps, it's a little bit easier to follow in somebody's footsteps than to make my own path. And to make your own path, you really have to have an inner strength and perseverance. And you have to work very hard at what you want, because you could very easily kind of get knocked off and just dragged back to, your old way or your old path. And so for me, a lot of inner strength and resilience had to come out, and also a defining of who I was and what I wanted in my life. And it wasn't something that was like a rebellion. It wasn't like I was doing this against who my family was. I was doing this because of who I was, because of how I was shifting and growing. And that was something to me that just, I had to follow my own way. I had to step out of line, because stepping out of line meant stepping into my own line, stepping into my own life, stepping into my own self. Following a little bit on that path after we got married. So we, thank God, have 5 children. And that's also like stepping out of line, 2.5 children,
right?
Normal in America. And in our family, we had 3. My husband grew up with 2. So like 3 is good. And then we had 4. And then it's like, no, we're done. We're good. And then we had 5. And it was like, okay, we're really good. I always even wanted more children than that. But for our family, it worked out that 5 was our magic, beautiful number. That was also like a second, I would call it, stepping out of line, where we just weren't following the path that our family had followed and the way that our siblings or cousins or relatives had followed. It wasn't in line with what everybody else was doing. And we could have done that if we followed everybody else, followed the leader, so to speak. And this third thing, which is this show that came out, Jewish Matchmaking, and being the Jewish matchmaker, there's 2 things in terms of stepping out of line. Number one, who ever heard of a matchmaker being like a real job? Like it's not known as a career. Who goes to school to become a matchmaker? Nobody. It's a way of stepping out of line and going like, wait, what? You're going to do what? What are you going to do with your life? And how are you going to build something? And how is that going to come to fruition? And I didn't, again, also, like, I think it's very interesting. Sometimes when I'm thinking about stepping out of line, I'm not doing it intentionally. Like, it's not like a rebellion. It's not like it's just, I need to do and be who I am. And that just happens to be that I need to step out of line. So I'm not a doctor and I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a teacher. And I guess I am sort of teacher, right? Yeah. Not in the traditional classroom. So those things were very different. And then for an Orthodox woman, to a wife and a mother, to go on a show that's being hosted on a platform like Netflix is also a very big step out of line. And there was a lot of risk in that specific one, because who knows what could happen. And we hadn't really seen very positive role models as of yet that had been done very successfully. And it was a very big step out of my comfort zone and out of line, so to speak. I love this word. I'm using it so much, Harry. It really resonates with me that stepping out of line for me has always meant stepping into the me that I needed to be.
A lot of people we interviewed, and they all stepped out of line because they just had to. They couldn't not do it.
Right.
Right.
And then knew that they didn't do it, it would regret it.
Right.
Right. That's it. If
For
you
sure.
didn't do it. And that's how I felt. Like, if I don't take this opportunity, I will look back and I will say, why didn't I do that? That was meant for me. And I was supposed to do that. And that was my calling. And it did mean stepping up to a new opportunity and doing something in a different way than had ever been done before. And I really feel very blessed with the production team that we had, and with editing and casting and everybody who took a part in this. I feel like when you step out of line and you step into your new role, that there's divine assistance that comes to help you, because this is not something that's very easy. And we all need extra support to make these things happen. So I feel very, very blessed that this has turned out the way that it is.
My older daughter, who's not religious at all, she finally went to Birthright after me nudging her for years and years. And she came home and I said, well, what did you get out of it? And she said, I realized I'm just as Jewish as anybody else.
Yes.
And then Perry did Wish at the Wall with High Lifeline, and we weren't the least religious out of everybody there. And we went, and I said the same question to Perry, what did you get out of it? And she said the same exact thing. And you, I think, nurture that. Very few people who are in your position, they might not see it like that, but you see everything in between. You don't see black and white.
In terms of stepping into line, I just stepped into who I was, and I said, everything you say is going to be recorded. It can be cut and pasted in any which way that you want to do it. Say what you mean and mean what you say, and be intentional. And having a microphone on you helps to have that consciousness. But if it's not who you are, you can't fake it unless you're, an actor or an actress. And I'm not. I just am me. So there were no lines. There was nothing to memorize. The first time I walked in to meet one of the daters that I was working with, I said, what do you want me to say? And they said, what do you normally do during an interview? And I was like, I just get to be me? Oh, I know what to do for that. No problem. Walk in, I say hello. If it's a woman in the room, give them a big hug. If it's a man, give them a big wave. And how are you? And let's sit down and pull out my notebook, which is what I normally do. I even have my notebook here.
Right.
And just get started getting to know somebody from the heart and soul level. And it is really me.
Like, how did you know this is what you wanted to do?
It took me a while to figure it out. I got married at 25. We had 2 kids. So around 27, 28, I started to look for what I wanted to do in the world. I was still a mommy. I wanted to be at home with my children, but I wanted to do something to change the world. And I didn't know what I could do or how I could do it from home. And a girlfriend of mine said, oh, I'm a matchmaker on a dating website. You can just set people up. It's, you don't have to go to an office. You don't have to go anywhere. It's a volunteer project. It's a chesed. It's a kindness we can do for the world. And I said, ooh, that sounds good. And the matchmaking started online, where you just click, click, click to set up these resumes, these dating profiles, which were more in depth. They actually give you about the person. There's a lot more details than what you saw in your sons. And I said, well, that's good, but it's just not enough. Let me call them. Let me get to know these people. And I would call and get to know people, and I would connect with them. And then they said, oh, can I call you if I have a question? And I said, like, oh, don't you have your matchmaker? I'm just, investigating you for my person. They're like, no, I want to talk to you. And I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I have something to offer. And that's how I fell from matchmaking into coaching. Everything was actually a very organic process. It wasn't anything that I some people have a story like, I worked so hard to do this. I don't want to say I didn't work hard to discover it. I didn't know what my purpose was in life. And I didn't know, other than getting married and having a family, what I should do. I had zero career aspirations. And I went to university and I got a degree and I still graduated. And everybody said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I just want to get married and have kids. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And that was actually, I have to tell you, in the same way that people are pained to not find their soulmate, I was very pained to not find my soul purpose. And it just was a deep challenge for me. Who do I want to be and what do I want to do when I grow up? And I thought, well, okay, I'll have a family. That's just what it needs to be. I don't know what else I should be when I grow up. And it developed over time, and I didn't really figure it out until my mid-30s. And I said, I want to do this matchmaking thing. I want to take what I'm doing more seriously and more professionally. I want to make it into a business. I think it's not just something that I'm going to do. I need to work in the world. I need to help to support my family. And I've got to find a way to do this, and I don't want to do anything else. This to me was I was searching for the thing that was the most meaningful thing in the world. I think, Perry, in the way that you're doing what you're doing and you are lighting up the world, and it just, I don't know, it just gives back so much. I feel like I'm doing the same thing with my purpose. And when everybody taps into that thing, it's so special. You can't help but be, like, everybody can't help but be drawn to it. It's magnetic. And when I heard about your show and what you were doing, I was like, oh yes. Oh yes, this is somebody that I want to be connected to. This is something that I want to be a part of. And I want a piece of your story too. And by connecting to you, I get to have a part of that. It's so meaningful and it's so inspiring. And when you find your purpose and you live it, that is life. That is everything. I was praying for so many years to figure out, what should I be and what should I do and how can I give back to the world in a meaningful way. And it's such a blessing that you found that at such a young age, and that you have the energy to pursue it, and the passion and the drive and the not stopping no matter what. That's really what it is, the persistence that keeps you going. I think that's your spark, that's your fuel, and that's what lights up the world, because the minute you stop, everything disappears. And if you keep going and you pursue, and when you reach your $1 million goal, like, you just light up the world doing exactly what you were supposed to do. That's why you're here. I knew I wanted to change the world. And a couple years ago, I did a business accelerator course in the same way that you're doing a professional, training right now. I did, not with a university, but just a business accelerator course, something that I could do while being a wife and a mommy at home in Philadelphia. And during that course, they have you do like a 5-year vision board. So in 2013, I visioned out what 2018 would look like, that I wanted to have a back login so that I'd have courses and programs that people could take, that I would train coaches, that I would speak in front of audiences. And I drew all little people's heads. I'm thinking like 100 people.
Right.
And all of those things happened by 2018. And I said, okay, time to make a new vision board. So I made a new vision board about 5 years ahead again. But within a year or two, I knocked off that whole vision board. It's like, well, did I not dream big enough? Did I not have strong enough goals? And I said, okay. And so then I made a new vision board. Now, I visioned out impacting the world. I still want to write a bestseller. So I am working on my next book, and I'm going to keep writing a book until I get a bestseller. And because I want my message to reach the world, not because I want the honor of having done that, because I have something so important to say and I want so many people to hear it, that I need a platform that's going to help me to do that. And then I started to get a few phone calls about upcoming documentaries and shows, and I kept doing interviews for them. And I kind of said to God, I was like, listen, this is like a risky proposition and I'm a little bit nervous about this. So please only let me accept the right thing, and only send me something really good. And if you send me something bad, it's going to be a problem, because I'm going to do something big in the world and I don't want to do the wrong thing. So please send me the right thing. And several things that I was interviewing at the same time that this was being interviewed for. And this one came through, and I said, okay, I had like a kind of a calm feeling once that I knew that this was the right thing. And at the same time, you're still on edge until it actually comes out, until you actually know what really happens. And also, you can see what happens on the screen, but You don't know the world's reaction to what you do. So
Right.
even if I think I did a lovely job, but somebody else is upset, then it's not so good. But after receiving so much warmth and so much love, I felt like blessings were raining down from heaven and that people were very excited, positive about this whole entire program. And I feel like it's just confirmation. I am who I need to be. I stepped out of line. I did something very risky, not just for me. I was risking my children's matchmaking and their partners as well. If it didn't turn out for me, it would be a problem for them. People ask me, where does your drive, where does your motivation come from? Like, why is this so important to you? Why, you could just live life and not do something so big or something like that. Where does this come from?
Being told that I can't do something because of my physical disability, because of my mental challenges. I never liked when people say that to me because it puts my account of where I have to stop, but I just can't do it. But I think knowing that people say that to me and knowing that I can do something in my life and I don't want to just stick around and stare at a wall the whole day. But I mean, when I was younger in the hospital, I would just stare at the ceiling or stare at the wall. And that's why I think I got it.
You motivated yourself from just, boredom and mindless nothing to
Yeah.
changing the world in a significant way.
I think if I did, I wouldn't feel myself crazy. So I figured if I have to do something, I have to figure it out quickly. Because I was losing my mind. Most of it is out of boredom or anger.
Boredom or anger.
Right,
Yeah.
but it birthed from that. Like
Right.
it allowed you to go, enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. I got to do something else. And then
Right.
something
And then
bubbled up from that. Perry, I'm going to give you a blessing that you should continue to light up the world. You should continue to inspire so many people, and the important work that you're doing. You should know how deeply meaningful it is to me and to the world, and just never stop. Just
Oh,
shoot for the moon and you land among the stars.